Good evening. I know we're all tired, and I promise not to talk much. But I just really want to express very sincere thanks to Angeliki and to Abdurrahman. Is he here?
Well, we can clap for
And of course to the Ministry of Religious Affairs of Oman and to our amazing Japanese hosts. I think this has been marvelous. Let's give them a good hand. You are right. Thank you so much. So I would just want to say personally, I've been at most of all the conferences in this series since Thessaloniki, with the exception of the one that was at Chile. So I think that over the years, I have seen these conferences get more and more interesting. That's what I think. And it's been so wonderful to develop friendships. I look forward to seeing friends that I know only through these conferences, but we have developed friendships, and it's wonderful to meet new ones as well. And if the goal of the Ministry of Religious Affairs of Oman was to get more people to study Ibadism, I would say this has been very successful. So, and one of the things that I really enjoyed about this topic on identity was that there was some, I think, sort of delving into some theoretical aspects. You very often, because Ibadism has been so little studied, the focus has been on primary texts, which is fine. It's not. But I liked some of the discussion. I liked the discussion from the vantage point of different geographical areas. I just want to express my appreciation for that. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Ercilia Francesca.
I also want to thank everyone who contributed in this conference. First, the organizer, Angeliki, Abdurrahman, the Ministry of Health in Oman, our Japanese host, all the participants in this conference. And I think it was a nice conference, a very interesting one. And the conference put on the floor a lot of arguments and issues which need to be probably more discussed and developed, and these topics gave us the possibility to develop new ideas and new path in our researches. Just few words I try to summarize a little bit the main arguments, just to open the floor for a general discussion, and we would like also to have new idea, for example, for new conferences and new idea for research, and whatever contribution is welcome anyhow. What I can say is that the Ibadi ethno-religious identities are produced through political and social process. This process comes to power through their spatiality. I think the question of spatiality was quite important in our contribution. Through the ways in which identities become territorialized, in the linking between state and community powers and boundaries. The question of boundaries is another point in the conference. Migrations, transnational flows, land, seafaring routes, which connected first Basra and Iraq with the newborn Ibadi settlement in North Africa, Khorasan and Oman, and later the centers of Ibadis in North Africa and Oman to places in sub-Saharan Africa, East Africa, and the Indian subcontinent, created a diasporic Ibadi identity, I think. Through the moment of people, cities, homes, landscape, and other localities become reconfigured, and the cultural encounters resulting from it influencing the definition of concepts such as home, belonging, place, identity, and memory. The question of memory, I think, is another important point that we put on the floor in this conference. Some of the paper in this conference try to conceptualize the idea of spatiality in both historical and contemporary context. The centers of Ibadis changed throughout the history. Factors such as faith, ethnicity, seem to have played a major role in the process of preserving the identity in front of the exposure to external influences and the inevitable decline of Ibadi exclusiveness. The concept of Ibadi exclusiveness is also an important point, especially exclusiveness in front of openness and in front of exchange with other schools and other communities and so on. Other factors that I think could deserve to be mentioned are relationship between place and memory and the cultural transformation of history into heritage. How Ibadis transformed history into into a cultural heritage, and which were and are the actors in this process of transformation. Then relationship between individual or community, collective, national identities and memories. That's another point I would say. And then link between trade and spread of community. Today I learned that, this was one of my topics, for example, and today I appreciated the contribution of Augustine, because it showed that today there's still important connection between trade and commercial activity in supporting the Ibadi identity. The Ibadi diaspora was cosmopolitan, actually. Diaspora for educational seeks, especially diaspora was important in Reform time, especially connected to the education and culture and university, and the new idea of education that was developed during the Reform time. Major actors in preserving Ibadi identity in diaspora were the ulama, either individual ulama or in an organization like in the Khazaba organization. Then we had traders, reformers, and then institutions such as the Charitable Institution and the Ibadi Association in Diaspora, which played a major role in preserving the Ibadi identity. Solidarity, for example, both formal solidarity and informal solidarity, seems to be a major issue in keeping the community style. The Ibadis also underlined the necessity of the community, of the Jama'ah, to stay together. The power of the Jama'ah, the community, was expressed also through the Walaya and Bara dynamic, as mentioned by some of us. Sometimes the Jama'ah of ulama controlled the escalation of conflicts within the community using the strategy of wukuf, the strategy of namely conciliating attitudes towards conflicts. And then another factor which emerged was the importance of books, either printed or manuscript, of Ibadi presses and libraries, private libraries or public libraries, in shaping and preserving the Ibadi identity. Preserving identity in a globalized world entails a multifaceted set of processes. That's also, I think, a topic that we discussed. Now some questions that I think deserve to be dealt with. The Ibadi communities managed over the century to mediate among the preservation of identity, autonomy, openness, and authority. Do their methods of encouragement of preserving identity have any peculiarity comparing to comparing the preservation of identity and survival strategies that we can find in other minorities. Can we underline a special embodied strategies for surviving and preserving identity within or without the Muslim world? Another question, I think, is the dynamic between flexibility, adaptability, and preserving identity. In which extent were and are the Bali communities flexible towards change, for example, and in which extent they resist to and oppose actually any change inside the communities. And last question that I have is in which extent the Bali identity has been constructed its identity. And in this construction, in which extent poetry, for example, contributed, or the idea of being proud to be Balis, in which extent is the idea contribute to construct any Bali identity? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, after this skillful and masterly summary, I have nothing to say in terms of the content of the conference. Well, I'd like to thank at first my colleagues at the Komaba campus of the university. Well, those of you who attended the morning session may remember that I said that there is no antagonism between the two campuses of the University of Tokyo. There is no antagonism, but there is this logistical, distance between the two campuses. And actually, all the logistical works for this conference were shouldered by my colleagues at this campus, Professor Takahashi, Professor Tsujigami, and Dr. Abe, who is not in the room, I think. And then also Kondo also came back from Beirut 2 weeks ago, and I think he did his best to help the colleagues at the Komaba campus. So I thank all those colleagues for making this possible, because I was really, when we were first approached by Angelica and Abdulrahman, we were, not quite sure if we could really host this conference. Islamic studies in Japan is growing, but we are not a large community. And when it comes to Ibadi studies, we only have Kondo. And that's our imam, and that's our sultan, and that's all. So I was a little bit worrying about this conference, but I now understand that this has been a great success, and I enjoyed the presentations given during the conference. And I hope that, well, before going to this I hope part, perhaps I will say something, the only thing perhaps I can say substantial is that in relation to your comment about whether there was anything specific, or particularly Ibadi, when it comes to the strategy for the survival of minorities, perhaps it's a productive thing to think beyond Islam and compare the cases, bring the cases from outside Islamic tradition for comparison. Japan, well, is believed, the popular image about Japan is that it's a rather monolithic society, but that kind of stereotypical understanding is always wrong, as you know. So Japan has also many minority communities. If a second conference on Ibadi studies comes to Japan, I think it's a good idea to bring in this perspective of comparing Ibadi tradition with local traditions in Japan.
Excellent.
Well, you have noticed, unfortunately, we haven't had much Japanese presence in this conference. Of course, Kondo made his very nice presentation, which I couldn't attend because I had to attend another conference in Kyoto. And of course, Professor Tsuchigami also made her presentation. But when it comes to the general audience, unfortunately, we didn't have much participation from Japanese side. Maybe, if there is a second one, my proposal will be useful. And you will have further Ibadi conferences in other places. I heard that the next one is planned for somewhere not very far from here. Which I don't say, perhaps it's a secret. No, it's not secret. So it has been announced. Okay, so you're going to Beijing. So it's also another not quite Islamic review where you are holding a conference. So this may be a useful suggestion from my side. And if you want to do this, again in Japan, you have to support our Kondo. He has to get the permanent position in Japan to host you again in Japan. So, yes, please give guidance to that young colleagues of ours. Thank you very much.
No, I have nothing to add to these three brilliant talks. But I was more in logistics, I think. And I'm sorry, I missed many of your papers. I jumped into one or two of them, and I have other things to do. But basically, although I couldn't attend all of your papers, but I learned a lot. And I was so fascinated to know that there are so many scholars working on different topics from different perspectives on Ibadi studies. This is my findings of this conference this time. But if you talk about the logistics, I have to apologize to you that we have lots of things missing, lacking, and we have to ask your understanding rather than filling in the something missing. And I'm sure many of you have noticed that the size of your room staying is very small, and Wi-Fi is. I'm also surprised that our university doesn't have the Wi-Fi service for the guests, which is very surprising to me. But thank you very much for your very kind and generous understanding. And I'm also very grateful to my students who were very, very supportive despite the weekend, and also they they spent a lot of time to come to this point. So I'm sorry that we are lacking so many things, but I would like to thank my students who helped me a lot.
Ya Sheikh, من وين انت؟ عبد الرحمن. It's your turn.
Don't know what to say. I would like to listen from you.
So,
Maybe you're concluding.
one more time, a lot of thanks to all of you from different parts of the continent. We have 15 minutes to enjoy until the dinner. And tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning, we have to be all of us in the lobby of the hotel to go to this beautiful excursion and to see a little bit Tokyo finally. Because we know quite well now the university, but despite the university nothing. So thank you very much for the great hospitality. And I can say at the end of this experience that I have enjoyed a lot and appreciate the working with you, and especially with Namie. Of course, Kondo, I know him since many years, and even developing a feeling of trust and a very good will towards our understanding, and Abe Naokumi, of course, and Professor Takahashi, that he is the director of the center. I really enjoyed being with you, and thank you very much for this hospitality, and also the human experience that is unforgettable and most valuable. Thank you very much.
It's easy to start a virtual, but very difficult to end.